Hey guys, we had an incredible second day here in Israel. We did a half day starting out in the classroom, and then we did a full city tour of Jerusalem looking at Old Testament sites. So I wanted to show you some of what we found. So we started out in the city of David, which is the part of Jerusalem that David lived in. So let me pull this up here. What strikes you as you look at it is that David's part of Jerusalem was actually really small. It was just about 10 acres, and so it would start here and kind of go around like that. And so this would have been, right there is where David's palace would have been, and this might have been his view looking out over at Bathsheba somewhere. Here is some house ruins leading up to King David's palace, which would have been right up there. So that was pretty fascinating looking at those ruins. And then the big thing we did today was Hezekiah's tunnel. Now, I didn't know the backstory of this, but I want to share just a little bit of it with you. The backstory is, of course, Hezekiah was king of Israel, and this was during the time when the northern tribes were being attacked by Assyria. And so Hezekiah's predecessor had formed an alliance with Assyria, but part of forming an alliance was you take on their gods and their idols. Well, Hezekiah was a good king, and so he wanted to get rid of all that and to concentrate and to purify all of the idols. But to do that, he knew that that meant that he would be sending a message to the Assyrians that he was going off the reservation and that it would incite them to attack Israel. And so he set out to do this incredible project. He increased the size of the walls from, David had it at 10 acres. Jerusalem was at 10 acres. Solomon expanded it to 32 acres. Hezekiah expanded Jerusalem to 132 acres. So he really increased it. But this phenomenal thing he did was he needed a water supply in the city. And so he had his people dig this tunnel going from a natural spring in one part of the city into this pool to be able to have a water supply, because he knew the Assyrians would siege Israel, and if they didn't have water, they would die. And so the way they did this is they were digging underneath, and people atop were banging on the rocks so they knew where to dig. And so they had one group starting here, they had one group starting at the bottom, and they met in the middle, which is just fascinating. So here is, we're getting ready to go in the tunnel. This is how deep the water gets. We're walking down into the tunnel. It reminds you of Mammoth Cave, only it's not natural. It was formed by humans. Here is the tunnel. It's a third of a mile long, and it's pretty tight. It's just like 20 to 24 inches wide. And at times, here, this is going into it. I'll show you just kind of a quick video. And so there's rushing water going through the whole time that you're walking. And so at times you have to crouch over. Actually, a lot of the time you're kind of having to crouch through as you walk through Hezekiah's tunnel. And so this is me after we finished walking through it. So that was pretty cool. And then the final thing I wanted to show you, and I just thought this was fascinating, the Western Wall, the Wailing Wall, is a really small piece of what the total temple would have been. Actually, the Western Wall, which we see here, this was actually just part of the retaining wall, which would hold the temple up above. So in other words, this area right there is actually just this little portion. That kind of puts it into perspective. And so at the end of the day, we went up and did some teaching. This is a Hasidic Jew who's praying there. This, of course, is the Dome of the Rock. This is the place where the Holy of Holies would have been with the ancient temple. And so this is pretty cool. I don't know if you'll be able to hear Jack teaching, but I just wanted to show you just a couple clips to give you a feel. He's teaching on the law And while he's teaching on the law, this guy is actually reciting the law in the background. So anyway, that's pretty fascinating. It's really hard to hear the audio. But then let me show you one more click. And again, I don't know if you'll be able to hear it, but while he's teaching on this passage of scripture out of Hebrews, and he's talking about the sacrifice that Jesus made, of course, here in the Holy of Holies is where the sacrifices were made in Old Testament times. The place where Jesus was crucified is just right over here. And so as he's distinguishing between these two places, the Muslim call to prayer goes out, which was just kind of fascinating, the timing. So see if you can hear this. So here you have all of these religions, Jack saying, coming to one spot, the Jews here, the Muslims here, of course Christians taking it all in, looking to fix the problem of brokenness. So pretty cool day. Tomorrow we do a similar study day focused on the New Testament. Love you guys. See you later.